Hi, how's it going? Welcome to Code with Z. Today's question is LeetCode number 16, three-sum closest, and we're basically given an array of numbers and a target number, and we gotta find the closest sum to our target. What does this even mean? Well, first of all, I'll explain all of this in the coming slides and I'll visualize the whole algorithm. But for the sake of reading the question itself, let's actually take a look at the examples. So as you can see, we're given an array of numbers and our target number is 1. And we gotta find out the sum of the three numbers that's gonna be closest to our target number. For example, here, if we actually add -1 plus 2 plus 1, as you can see, -1 plus 2 plus 1, that's gonna be equal to 2. And 2 is actually really close to our target number, that's 1. So we gotta find the closest sum, and each time we only have one solution. Alright, let's solve this together, and don't worry, I won't finish this video until I make sure you fully understand how to solve this problem once and for all. Now, this is our array of numbers, and this is our target number here, so we're looking for the sum that's gonna be closest to the number 1 that we have here, and I think we can all agree that we're gonna return something out of our algorithm, and that something is gonna be the number that's gonna be closest to our target number here. And for that, we're gonna need a result variable, so we're gonna define one, but what is this result variable is gonna be equal to? Well, you see, in our question, we know that there's always a solution, and we also know that the minimum length for the array of our numbers is gonna be 3. So since our array is gonna have the minimum length of 3, we could actually say our result is gonna be initialized to the first number plus the second number plus the last number. This is gonna be our default result because we know that we're gonna have 3 numbers. So our default number is gonna be the sum of all 3 numbers. Now I'll explain our algorithm and then I'll visualize the whole process. So in the beginning, we're gonna need a loop, and this is gonna be a for loop. So because it's a for loop, we're gonna have a variable called I that's gonna increment on each round, and we're gonna keep on looping as long as our I is smaller than the length of our array of numbers -2. And you might ask, why -2? Well, you see, in this question, we gotta find the sum of 3 numbers that's gonna be closest to our target number, right? So because we have 3 numbers, we're gonna have 3 pointers. So our I is gonna be our first pointer, and then we're gonna have a j, and j is gonna be equal to I plus 1, and then we're gonna have a k. And k is gonna be equal to nums.length -1. So it's gonna be the last index of our array. And because this j is always gonna check the number that's next to our I, and this k is always gonna check the last number, our I doesn't need to loop through everything because we have 2 other pointers that are gonna check that for us. So our I is gonna loop until the last 2 numbers in our array. And these 2 are gonna take care of the rest. And again, don't worry, I'll visualize everything. I'm just currently explaining the algorithm. Then, inside of our for loop, we're gonna have another loop, and this loop is gonna be a while loop, and it's gonna keep on looping as long as our j that was defined here is smaller than k. That was also defined here. So just know that we have a loop inside of this loop here. Inside of it, we're gonna calculate our sum, and sum is gonna be equal to the sum of all 3 numbers that our pointers are pointing to. So for example, if our I is 0, meaning it's pointing to the number at the index of 0, so this -1 here, and if our j is 1, it's gonna be pointing to this number here, and if our k is 3, because it's pointing to the last number in our array, meaning it's gonna be pointing to this number here, we're gonna add these 3 numbers that our pointers are pointing to. And you're gonna see that in the visualization. After we've calculated our sum, we're gonna check if our sum is greater than our target number. If it was, we're gonna decrement k. And if it wasn't, we're gonna increment j. And then we're gonna say result is gonna be equal to the closest number to the target between sum and the result. So we wanna see which 2 of these numbers are closest to our target number, and that's gonna be equal to our result. So we're basically comparing the sum that we have with the previous values of result. And then at the end, we're gonna return our result. Now, before we start our visualization, you gotta know that we have to sort our number here for this algorithm to work. So let's do that. This is literally the same array. We just sorted it from the smallest number to the biggest number. And now let's start our visualization. So in the beginning, our result is gonna be equal to the sum of the first number, the second number, and the last number. So let's do that. It's gonna be -4. As you can see, the first number is -4, and then the number that's next to it, meaning the second number, it's gonna be -1, as you can see, and the last number is gonna be 2. So we have 2 here. So this is gonna be -3, meaning our result is gonna be -3 in the beginning of our code. Then we're gonna enter our loop, and inside of it, our I is gonna be equal to 0. And because it's equaling to 0, number of I is gonna be equaling to this -4, because this is the number with the index of 0. And then our j is going to be equal to 1 because I plus 1 is going to be 1. And then our k is going to be equal to 3. And these two are pointing to these two numbers respectively. As you can see, yellow is j and red is k. Then we're going to enter our second loop. And here we're going to calculate our sum. So let's do that. So in the first round, our sum is going to be equal to minus 4. As you can see, minus 4, minus 1, minus 1, and 2. Like so. And the sum of this is going to be minus 3 again. And then we're going to check if our sum is greater than our target. It's not, because our sum is minus 3 and our target is 1. So we're going to fall inside this else and we're going to increment our j. When we increment our j is going to be pointing to this one here. So after we've incremented j, we're going to see what's the closest number to our target. We're going to check between our sum, which is minus 3, and our result, which is also minus 3. And as you can see, our result is going to stay minus 3 and we're going to enter the next round. In our next round, our I is going to be 1 because it got incremented in the for loop. And our j is going to be again initialized to I plus 1. And that's going to be equaling to 2. And our k is going to still point to the last number, and that's going to be 3. And then we're going to enter our second loop. And here we're going to calculate our sum again. So minus 1, as you can see, plus 1, plus 2, that's going to be equal to 2. And then we're going to check if our sum is greater than our target. It is, because our sum is 2 and our target is 1. So k is going to be decremented, and then we're going to check to see which number is closest to our result. And we're going to check between our sum and our result. Our result is minus 3 and our sum is 2. And as you can see, 2 is closest to 1. So we're going to return this 2 and our result is going to become 2. And then we're going to break out of this loop because j is not smaller than k anymore. And this was the condition for our loop here. And we're going to also break out of our bigger loop, meaning the first loop. And that's because in the next round, I is going to be bigger than our condition here. And we're going to break out of our loop. And then at the end, we're going to return our result, and this is going to be our result. Now, let's code this in the simplest way possible. Alright, so we're going to first define our result variable, and that's going to be equal to nums of 0 plus nums of 1 plus nums.length minus 1, just like we saw in the slides. And then we're going to sort our numbers, so nums is going to be equal to nums.sort A and B, and then we're gonna say A minus B. And this is just how we sort arrays in JavaScript, and this is gonna sort our array of numbers. And then we're gonna define our for loop, so let's do that. We're gonna say let I be equal to 0, and we wanna keep on looping as long as I is smaller than nums.length minus 2, just like we agreed on, and I plus plus. And then we're gonna get inside of our for loop. We're gonna define our j variable here, and it's gonna be equal to I plus 1. And then we're gonna define our k variable, and it's gonna be equal to nums.length minus 1. Then we're gonna define our while loop, and we wanna keep on looping as long as j is smaller than k. And let's enter this loop here. Here we're gonna define our sum, and sum is gonna be equal to nums of I plus nums of j plus nums of k. And then we're gonna say if sum is greater than our target, we want to decrement k, and else we want to increment j. And then below these, we got to calculate the closest number to our target. And the way we do that is by calculating the difference between the numbers. So we're gonna say result is gonna be equal to, let's zoom out a little bit, and then we're gonna say if target number minus sum is smaller than target number minus result, meaning if the distance between our target number and our sum number is smaller than the distance between our target number and our result, if that's the case, this is a ternary operator, we wanna return our sum. And if that's not the case, we want to keep our result as it is. But to make sure the distance we're calculating is going to end up as a positive number, we're going to wrap these between absolutes. So this number is going to be wrapped between math.abs and this number as well. So math.abs like so. So we're calculating our distance, and we don't want our distance to be negative. We want to get the positive version of it so we can actually know which distance is smaller, and we're going to assign our result to the number that has the smallest distance with our target number. And then outside of our loops, we're gonna say return result, like so. This is all of our code. Now let's run it and see if we're gonna pass our tests. Yep, as you can see, both of the tests are passed. And now let's zoom out and submit our code. Let's do this. Moment of truth. Let's see if we're gonna pass it. And yep, and we're beating 67% of all of the other submissions. That's awesome. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and keep on coding.